All right, let's dive into one of the greatest stories from Greek mythology, the epic of Jason and the Argonauts. It's this incredible tale about ambition, a voyage that became legendary, and a betrayal so deep it echoes through the ages.
So how does the story like this even start? Well, it all kicks off with one of the strangest, most specific prophecies you'll ever hear. And this one peculiar warning, man, it just lights the fuse for an absolutely impossible quest.
Okay, so who is this man, and what's the big deal about a missing shoe, right? This is where we get to meet our hero, Jason, and the paranoid king who is absolutely terrified of him. Our story really gets going with this guy, King Peleus, and right off the bat you need to know he's not the rightful ruler. He actually stole the throne from Jason's father. To make matters worse, an oracle warns him that a kinsman is going to come looking for revenge, and this fear just completely poisons his entire reign. To keep him safe from Peleus, the infant Jason is smuggled out of the kingdom. His mother actually fakes his death and sends him off to be raised by the legendary centaur Chiron, the guy who trained all the best heroes. So fast forward 20 years, and Jason, completely unaware that he's about to fulfill a prophecy, heads back to Iolcus to claim what's his. On his journey, Jason does a simple act of kindness. He carries an old woman across a raging river. He loses a sandal in the thick mud, but here's the kicker. He has no idea that the old woman is actually the goddess Hera in disguise. So this one nice act earns him an incredibly powerful ally in the heavens, but it also seals his fate as the man from the prophecy. So when Jason finally shows up at court, Peleus sees this single sandal and just panics. He can't murder his own nephew in public, so he cooks up what he thinks is a foolproof plan. Send Jason on a quest so impossible, so deadly, that he'll never return. He tells him, "Bring me the Golden Fleece." But a quest this crazy is not a one-man job. Jason knows he needs a crew. And he doesn't just get any crew. He assembles what is basically the ancient Greek version of the Avengers. It's the single greatest collection of heroes ever, all sailing together on his ship, the Argo. We're talking over 50 of the ancient world's most famous names answering the call. Seriously, think of it as the original superhero team-up. You've got demigods, kings, and legendary warriors, all united for one epic adventure. And what a lineup it was. You've got Heracles, literally the strongest man alive. Orpheus, whose music could charm the very stones. The divine twins, Castor and Pollux. You've even got Atalanta, the famed huntress. This crew was absolutely stacked. It wasn't just a voyage, it was an assembly of legends. So, with the crew assembled, the journey finally begins. But the path to the Golden Fleece is anything but easy. Let's look at just a couple of the incredible dangers they faced on their way to the edge of the known world. Their first major challenge involves this cursed king named Phineus. He was a seer who revealed too many of the gods' secrets, so Zeus punished him in a really nasty way. He sent the Harpies, these disgusting bird women, to snatch his food and defile whatever was left. The poor guy was starving to death. Lucky for Phineus, two of the Argonauts, Zetes and Calais, had wings and were able to chase the Harpies away for good. Eternally grateful, Phineus gave them the key to their survival, a crucial piece of advice on how to get past the deadliest obstacle on their entire route. The plan was pretty clever. See, the Symplegades were these massive cliffs that just crashed together, destroying any ship that tried to pass. Phineus told them to release a dove first. If the dove made it through, it meant the rocks were pulling apart, giving them a tiny window to row for their lives. The dove just barely gets through, losing its tail feathers, and the Argo follows right behind, only losing a small piece of its stern. A very, very close call. After surviving that whole ordeal, Jason and the Argonauts finally arrive in Colchis. But the king there, Aeetes, has no intention of just handing over his most prized possession. Instead, he presents Jason with a series of tasks that are designed to be utterly impossible. And listen to this to-do list: tame fire-breathing bulls, fight an army that sprouts from the ground, and get past a sleepless dragon? It's a death sentence. There's no way Jason can do this alone. Luckily for him, his divine ally Hera has one more card to play. Enter Medea. She's the king's own daughter and a powerful sorceress. At Hera's request, the goddess of love, Aphrodite, makes Medea fall madly in love with Jason. And just like that, she becomes his secret weapon, the only reason he stands a chance. Medea's cunning is what saves him. Take that second task, where an army of warriors rises from the dragon's teeth. Instead of fighting them head-on, Medea tells him to just throw a rock into the middle of them. Confused, the warriors turn on each other and fight to the death. A clear case of brains over brawn. So Jason gets the fleece, but this is where the heroic adventure takes a very dark turn. The victory is secured, but the trip home is soaked in betrayal and blood, transforming this whole myth from a quest for glory into a real tragedy. As her father's fleet pursues them, Medea makes an unthinkable sacrifice for Jason. She kills her own brother, Absyrtus, and throws his dismembered body into the water. Her father is forced to stop and collect the pieces, allowing the Argo to escape. Medea has now burned every single bridge to her old life. For him. In return for her help, Jason swears a sacred oath to make Medea his wife forever. But years later, in Corinth, he breaks that vow. He decides to cast Medea aside and marry a Greek princess, all to secure his own political power. This betrayal pushes Medea right over the edge. The woman who tamed fire-breathing bulls, tricked an army, and killed her own brother for him, well, that's not someone you want as an enemy. Her incredible love turns into a rage that will consume everyone and everything around them. And so we come to the end of Jason's story. For breaking his sacred oath to Medea, he loses the favor of the goddess Hera, the very same deity who had guided his entire quest. His end is not a heroic one. After Medea enacts her horrific revenge, Jason is left with nothing. He wanders for years as an outcast. In the end, he returns to his decaying ship, the Argo. And as he rests in its shadow, a rotten piece of the prow breaks off and falls, crushing him. It's an ironic, pathetic end for a man who once commanded legends. And that's really the question this myth leaves us with. Jason achieved the impossible, and his name became legendary. But it came at the cost of his honor, his family, and ultimately his life. It forces all of us to ask, was the glory really worth the price?